Day 507 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 3005, count elements with maximum frequency. The difficulty level is easy, so you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as well. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. You are given an array nums consisting of positive integers. Return the total frequency of elements in nums such that those elements all have the maximum frequency. The frequency of an element is the number of occurrences of that element in the array. All right, y'all, so that seems simple enough, but let's go ahead and take a look at these examples anyway, just to make sure that we are doing this problem correctly. So in example 1, we have our input nums equals an array of integers 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, and 4. Our output is 4. The explanation says the elements 1 and 2 have a frequency of 2, which is the maximum frequency in the array. So the number of elements in the array with the maximum frequency is 4. All right, y'all, so let's break this down one step further, right? So all we really want to do is count the frequency of each element. And frequency just means the number of times that element occurs. So in this case, 1 occurs twice right here and right here. 2 occurs twice right here. 3 occurs once, and 4 occurs once. So since 1 occurs twice and 2 occurs twice, and all of the elements occur less than twice, 1, that means 1 and 2 have the maximum frequency, or they occur the maximum amount of times, right? They both occur twice, which is the maximum times or the most amount of times that any element occurs in this array. So now we just need to return how the number of elements that have that frequency, right? And each element counts as itself. So it's not like these 2's count as the same 2 or these 1's count as the same 1. Each 1 counts as a separate 1 and each 2 counts as a separate 2. So this 1 has a maximum frequency of 2. This 2 has a maximum frequency of 2. This 2 has a maximum frequency of 2. And this 1 has a maximum frequency of 2. So in total, there are 4 elements that have our maximum frequency of 2, meaning they occur twice, because all of the other elements like this one and this one only occur once, which is less than 2. And since there are 4 elements that occur twice or have the maximum frequency, then that's why we return 4. So just in case that didn't make sense to y'all, let's take a look at example 2. Example 2 is a little bit more tricky, but it's the same principle. So in example 2, we have our input nums equals an array of integers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This time the output is 5. Explanation says all of the elements of the array have a frequency of 1, which is the maximum. So the number of elements in the array with the maximum frequency is 5. So each one of these elements occur one time. So since they all occur one time, they all have the same frequency, right? And that frequency is 1. They all occur once. And so that makes 1 the maximum frequency. And that means all of these elements have the maximum frequency. So we need to include all of these outputs or all of these elements, right, in our output. And so that's why the output is 5, because all of the elements, all 5 elements occur once, which is the maximum frequency, so our output is 5. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. Solution's not that difficult at all, y'all. So first thing we're going to do is, I'm sure you guessed, we're going to create a dictionary to store the frequency of each number in the array. So the key is going to be the number, and the value is going to be how many times it appears. So we're going to declare a variable called freq. We're going to set that equal to a dictionary of integers. So square brackets, int, colon, int. This side, this right here is the key, and this side right here is the value. We can initialize it with 2 parentheses like that. Now we need to count the occurrences of each number in nums and store it in this dictionary. So for that, we're going to say for num in nums, we're going to open up the brackets, and we are going to say freq square bracket num, comma, default colon 0, come outside the square bracket and say plus equals 1. So let me show you how this works before we continue, right? So this is just how we keep track of each number in the dictionary and how many times it occurs. So this is going to represent each element. So this might represent 1, might represent, sorry y'all, might represent 2, maybe 3, and so on. And this side right here is going to keep count. So initially it might look like this. It might say we have 1. The default value is 0. So let's say it looks like this. Boom. Boom. One more. Boom. So say this is the default values right here. This is how it will start. Or each number will have a default value of 0. That's what this means right here. And then this num represents each number. So say we're looping through this array right here. When we start, we're going to see 1. We see a 1, so we're going to increment our default value by 1. This is what this plus equals 1 does. So we looping through, we see a 1, so that means we could come over here, put a 1 right here because we see a 1. Then we keep going, we see a 2. So once again, this plus equals 1 is going to add 1 to the default value, which is 0, when we see this number 2. So we see a 2. So now we can just make this 1. Boom, because we're adding 1 to this right here. Boom. Then we keep coming, we see another 2. So now we're going to add another 1 to this default value. So now this 1 becomes a 2. Now we keep going, see the 2, now we see a 3. So since we see a 3, we're going to add this 1 to the default value. Now 3 has now that's a value of 1. Then we keep going. Oh, we see a 1 again, right? So now we need to increment 1. So we see another 1. So we see another 1. Now it's has a value of 2. Then we keep going and we get to 4. That's the first time we see 4. So we need to increment the default value. And now we have a value of 1 for 4. So this is what we will be left with, and this is how the dictionaries will work when we do this right here. So now let's keep going with the rest of the code. I just wanted to show y'all how that works. Now we need to find the highest frequency of all of the numbers. If the array is empty, we can return 0 immediately. So we'll just say guard let max freq equal freq.values.max, put the parentheses, else, open the brackets, return 0. So what this max freq is going to store, the frequency values that have the maximum value, right? So it's going to look through these dictionaries and it's going to see which what is the max value, right? Out of all of these values, so the values are this side right here. It's going to see out of this side right here, what is the max value? So in this case, the max value is 2. So we can just come right here and put, or max frequency. Oh no, yeah, the max value. So the max value is 2. Boom. So that means that out of all of these dictionaries, the elements that have the 2, or the elements that occur twice, are the elements that occur the most amount of times, or the elements that have the max frequency. So now we know our max value is 2. Let's keep going with the code so we can make it make sense even more. So now we need to keep track of, or keep count of, all of the frequencies, or all of the numbers that have that frequency of our max value of 2. So we can say, or for that we could just declare a variable called result, and this result is where we're going to keep our count of those, or store our count of those elements. So then we come right here, we could say for f in freq.values. So once again, we're looking at these values, and then we're going to say where f is equal sign to max freq. So now we're looping through this dictionary again, we're looping through these values right here, and we're looking for elements, excuse me, where f is equal to the max freak. So we're looking for the values where f is equal to the max freak or the max value. Boom, this is the max freak right here. Maybe I should call this max freak, sorry. Boom. So we're looking for elements where the value is equal to the max freak. So we see these two elements are equal to the max freak, so we could get rid of these. We're not worried about these. We're only worried about these two. Boom. So we find the dictionaries that have the max freak, and then we say, come right here, and we can say result plus equals 1. So the first time we see that, we'll see, not plus equals 1, sorry, plus equals f. Boom. So right now, f is going to be in freak values where f is equal to the max freak. So the first time we see this dictionary, boom, we'll see 1 has a value of 2, so we'll add 2 to the result. Boom. Then we come down, we see 2 also has a value of 2. So we'll add 2 more to the result. So first it'll say, let's just say res will be plus 2 or equals 2 once we see this one. Boom. That's what this means right here because we added the 2. But then we come down and see this one. Now res is going to equal 4 because we saw there's 2 different dictionaries with the max freak, so we need to add both of them. Boom. So now we're done with that because all we need to do is come right here and say return result. Sorry, y'all, we could get rid of this though. Boom. And that should be all she wrote, y'all. That's the code. That's all of the code. Let's give it a run. I hope that made sense to y'all. Didn't confuse y'all too much. It's accepted, so let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it. Let's see, and look at that, y'all. 0 milliseconds beats 100% of users. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the numbers I like to see, y'all. So with that being said, I hope y'all learned something today, and I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.